I was thinking, how do I get these girls? Well, if all the drug dealers got them, I guess I got to be a drug dealer. I was working 3 jobs at once, and that wasn't as close to the money that I was making from selling drugs. I pulled up, him and his friend got in the car, and his mate in the back seat poured a syringe on me.
Andrew Truong, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Good to come on board. You're looking fit. Life's good for you at the moment?
Very good. I'd say my last 3 weeks have been the fittest I've been in a while.
Yeah. Oh, you're certainly wearing that fitness and look content. So you're happy where your life is. You've hit some low points in your life, but
You know what? I think surprisingly, since I've turned 30, my life has gotten better and better the more I stick to fitness.
yeah, that's helping you. What self-esteem, mental health? What's the secret there?
I think a bit of everything. So obviously mental health, like your fitness keeps you sane. Like every time I get angry or distraught or upset about something, I go do a bit of a training session, I always feel better. And I think that gives me a clear headspace. So let's say I don't make any bad decisions when I get angry. Train first before I make any decisions. And in terms of like goal setting, I think it's improved my life. Like anything that I set goals in fitness, I start setting goals in my life too. So yeah. It's helped.
I think with fitness, and that's what I've found, that you get rewarded for the effort you put in, and it's a lesson to learn in life, isn't it? You get rewarded for effort.
It's true. And like with fitness, like everything that you want to achieve in fitness, it has a price tag. And the certain amount of time or effort that you put in, same thing with life. I realize that like if I want a certain thing, I have to put in a certain amount of effort.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So, just winding it back, I want to talk about your life, your career, how you ended up in jail. When I say career, your career is selling drugs.
Career as a criminal.
I suppose that's the career path. I want to go right through that. But I just want to ask you up front that when you were selling drugs and the way that you got into it, did you consider that it was a serious crime that you could end up in jail, or did you become desensitised to it?
I would say I became desensitized to it because of the music, the social circles that I was around too. I thought it was just normal. And like seeing it on TV, like even when I was younger and I seen like Tony Huang sell drugs on the documentary on the Gangs of Oz, I thought it was just normal as a part of the community. Everyone did it.
Yeah.
And I guess I became desensitized. Like I knew it was a crime. Like you see in the movies, like, you do jail and all of that. Or you get heavily involved in the gangs and eventually you die. I didn't think it was going to happen to me for some reason. I don't know why. It's probably the desensitization of like media.
Yeah, because I see people that are in prison for selling drugs, and I quite often look at them and I think, Jesus, if you put that effort into life in a different path, you wouldn't be here. And I wonder, because the courts frown on selling drugs, and hence the big sentences that people get. But I'm wondering why people take that risk all the time.
I think the media glorifying it makes it like cool. And at a certain point in my life when I was younger, like when you're between, let's say 18 to 21, you just want to get all the hot girls. And unfortunately, when you see the drug dealers, they got all the hot girls. So I guess that's what led me down to that path too. When I was thinking, how do I get these girls? Well, if all the drug dealers got them, I guess I got to be a drug dealer.
So that's the music and the nightclub scene and what's portrayed in the movies and on TV, that the drug dealers are the ones that flash cars and beautiful women.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's what kind of led me down that path too, because, you're young, you want a partner, you want a hot-looking partner, and that's who had them all.
Yeah. So did you think when it all come unstuck for you, did you think that you deserved to go to prison? Did you have a consequence there, or were you looking at yourself going, I'm not that bad, I was just doing what everyone else was doing?
I kind of had a lot of thinking time to myself. Initially, I don't think I thought that. And then when I knew that I wasn't getting out of the second time that I went to jail, I knew, all right, well, I fucked up. I got to figure out how to overcome this obstacle. And I probably about maybe, what am I now? I'm 32. probably about 3 years ago, I was listening to this podcast, and there was a guy named Rob Dial who was saying, energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be converted. And then that's when I realized, all that energy that I put into drug dealing, it can be reconverted. Like, I still got that hunger in me to do something else. I could just got to redirect that energy into something else.
Steer it in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's why I like getting people like yourself on I Catch Killers, because I think you hear people's stories, and perhaps a cautionary tale for other people to listen to, that it's easy to go down a path that can lead to a lot of tears and pain.
Well, I tell this to the kids that I work with at the juveniles. A smart man will learn from the problems they make, problems they made, and a wise man would learn from the problems that other people made.
Andrew, you've just taken one of the quotes I've pulled out from one of the interviews that you've done. I wanted to explore that, and I think it's a very interesting quote. So let's break that down again. That a wise man, a smart man learns from the mistakes he makes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes others make. Yeah.
So basically, like, how you just said that, you wanted to get me on to talk, you want to learn about that. So in case other people don't make the same mistake I did, basically that's what I do now. Like, try to see who's wise in my life. Give out as much information as I can, provide as much value as I can, even in fitness or life experience. And the people that do follow me, you can see who's wise and who's smart.
And there is a difference. I remember I did it was called Practical Philosophy.
Yep.
And you'd attend a class, it'd be a group chat, and they'd give you homework to do during the week. And one of the things was consider what you would do, who is a wise man, what defines a wise man, wise woman, someone that's wise. And then before you react to something during the week, think what a wise person would do. I got back the following week to this course, and they said, well, how'd you go? I said, I think I had about 50% less arguments and confrontations, because it made you stop and check and think, what would a wise man do before you react? And it's a good philosophy, isn't it?
Well, I think it's a great philosophy. I don't think I'm that wise yet. I'm still making a lot of mistakes.
Hey, Andrew, we've all got to be working on improvement. Otherwise, there's no point. I'm not putting myself up as a wise man. Just a little bit wiser than I was before I did that course.
It's exactly like what you just said. If you stop and think and you analyse the situation, you become a little bit more wiser. Yeah.
So quite often, your initial reaction is not the way to go. And when you take a deep breath, step back and think about it, there's other paths. Let's talk about your childhood. So your parents, they are Vietnamese immigrants?
Yeah, so my parents came here in 93. They actually flew here. They didn't come by boat, so they came in like the second wave.
Yep.
And I have a very small family compared to other Vietnamese families. So when I went to school, a lot of the other Vietnamese kids, they were all cousins. They were all related to each other, like family, friends. And my family was my mum, my dad, and we had one uncle here. And I had one cousin here. And I thought that was like, a family. Like, I thought that was the family. But when I went to school, everyone had all these like 5, 6, 7 cousins. And I'm like, how does everyone have all these big cousins? And so I kind of felt a little bit alienated when I was at school, because I felt like I was a little bit different. But because I had a smaller family, I kind of found my family amongst my friends a lot more, and that became like my influences. Yeah, so I came here. My parents were both immigrants. They were working pretty much like, by the time I woke up every morning, they were already gone out of the house. And by the time I came home from school, I would see them when it's dinner time.
And you're the only child too?
Yeah, only child. So like, they taught me from an early age how to look after myself while they were gone. Real small basic things like just making noodles and stuff. And they, surprisingly, when I was young, I was doing all my homework.
Yeah.
So by the time they got home, I've already done all my homework.
Perfect child. Was English the second language in your home?
Yeah, English was my second language. So a lot of the times when I was growing up, my parents would ask me to translate a lot of the things, the letters that they got. So I was doing a lot of that. And because I'm the only child, sometimes I stressed out because I wasn't sure if I was translating things properly, or I didn't understand like the formal language that was on the letters, because I was only like 5, 6 up to the age of 10, and over time I just got annoyed about that. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because I've got friends who grew up in environments where English was a second language, and they talk about it was embarrassing that I'd have to go into the bank with my mother or father and explain what was going on, and there's a lot of pressure for a young kid. And the way that you just described it, you didn't understand. You don't understand what the documents mean at 5-year-old, and you're trying to translate it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel the pain that you just told me, like going into the banks. I remember doing that.
Yeah. Just an embarrassment because everything embarrasses you at that age, and you're sensitive to it. It's interesting what you say that you look for your family because you had a small family, but you look for a family in the friends. Talk us through that.
So because I'm an only child, I felt like when I was growing up, like I was missing something. And well, all my mates, they had older brothers, older sister, or younger brothers and younger sister. So they kind of like, they had their family that they belonged to. And I guess because I was lacking that extra sibling, I found a belonging to my friends. I just got closer and closer to my mates because, well, you spend all day with them at school and, you don't have someone to go play with after school. So I guess I just went to go play with my mates.
Mm.
Yeah.
In the environment that you grew up, was it race-based or did you mix?
I would say my primary school, like there was, the schools that I went to were mixed, but I kind of gravitated towards other Asian ethnics. So mostly Cambodian, Vietnamese people that I was real close with. Only towards the end of high school was when I started mixing with like other races.
Right. Did you feel a sense, and I'm curious on this because Australia like to think we're multicultural and country that everyone's accepted, but was there a sense of alienation like growing up?
I wouldn't say alienation because the schools that I went to, there was a good mix of different crowds and you just kind of gravitated to whoever looked like you.
Right.
But at the same time, we didn't have any tension between the other nationalities. Like everyone was still friendly with each other. Everyone still had a laugh with each other. They just hung out in different groups.
Right. What did you want to do as a young fella? Did you have anything in mind, a career path, or?
Funny that you asked that. Initially, like because I came from immigrant parents and my parents wanted me to have a good education, go down the path of a good job. Initially, when I was like 5, they wanted me to be a doctor.
Yep.
Typical Asian parents. Not all the pressure, not all the pressure already at the age of 5. And then I guess when I got to high school, they realized that I wasn't as academically smart enough to be a doctor eventually.
Yeah.
So they pushed me down to the path of like, oh, maybe you can be a dentist. Sound great.
Oh, the dentists are going to protest about that. Yeah.
And then I think when I got to about 16, my parents started asking me that question a lot. And I go, I don't think I can be a dentist because my results in school weren't really showing. And I thought, maybe I'll be an accountant or, eventually towards the end of school, I decided that I was going to be a teacher. Well, not yet, actually. No, sorry. TAFE was when I decided I was going to be a teacher.
Right, okay. Yeah. So at what point in time, like your parents, you said they were working, and so there was a lot of times you've come home and, there's a term there, latchkey child, when you come home and the parents aren't home and you look after yourself. But they were good parents. They were trying to steer you in the right direction. Yeah,
so, like, I never would be angry or upset at my parents for the way they raised me because they were just trying to make a living, and the only way you can do that is through slave labor, pretty much working, both of them working jobs because, the way inflation was going and all of that. My parents, they worked hard, and every single extra dollar they made, they put that back into tutoring and extra studies for me. So as a child, up from the age of, I think, 8, I was already doing extra studying, like extra school work. Like they would send me to tutoring centers after school on weekends and whatnot.
Did that add pressure to you?
Yeah, like I felt a lot of pressure growing up, especially the fact that I was the only child too, because they always told me, Andrew, you're the only child, you're the only child, you're the only child. You need to get a good job when you get up so you can look after us and retire us.
And that's a very cultural thing too, isn't it? That the child will look after the parents.
Well, I felt like when I was talking to my friends about this, when I was growing up, they didn't feel as much pressure because they got other siblings. The kids would look after the parents, but for me it was like I had to do it. There was no one else that was going to do it. I had to do it.
Where's my brother and sister?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
right there. Yeah.
So yeah, I did feel a lot of pressure growing up, and I guess when I was feeling a lot of pressure, I would, instead of studying harder and working harder, I guess I spent a lot of times playing games just to avoid and not think about the pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the career path, because when we flagged it at the start that you spent a significant time in prison, or 4 years in prison, but I've spoken to other people where you can virtually see that it's going down the wrong way. They're tied up in gangs. The path was already set. They're boys' homes and prison. That wasn't necessarily your path, was it?
No, it wasn't. So what kind of led me down to that path was because my parents were so away at work all the time and I was left to look after myself, and I found like a really close belonging with my group of friends, and I became real social. Towards the age of 16 and up, there was a lot of parties going on. Like, a lot of 16th birthdays, 17th, 18th, all the way up to 21. And because I was just like that social guy at school that everyone kind of knew also, and I would party hard too. So I created a big network, I'd say. And then towards after school is when like the partying got harder. So everyone's like legal now. So everyone would go to the raves and everyone would start popping pills more. And when I saw that, I saw an opportunity to make money. So that's when I went down that path.
Just before we get into you deciding to make some money from that environment, how did you get dragged into the environment? So you go there, you go to a rave party, someone says take a pill, and you have a great time and think, I want that more. What was your slide into that world?
I would say towards the end of high school, from 16 onwards, I started training at the gym. And the guys that I was like kind of like talking to and just being social with at the gym, they were like, oh, bro, have you been to a rave yet? I'm like, well, when you're 18, I'll take you to a rave. And when he said rave, he also said, look, when you go to your first rave, like the rave is never as good as the drug. Like you'll only remember your first rave as good as depending on how good the drug was.
Right.
And then I thought, all right, well, if I'm only going to do this at a rave, I'll just do it at the rave then. And he specifically said to me, look, don't ever do it any other time. You only ever do it at a rave. Okay, this is not the drug to be doing in your backyard for fun for no reason. Okay, don't be that type of person. Just be that type of person where you enjoy the night and that's it. And I thought, okay, so it's not too bad. Just enjoy my night. And then when I got into that scene, that's when I started to see like, oh, I could make some money here.
So what drugs were you taking in the scene?
Just MDMA pills, ecstasy. Yeah.
And you saw a commercial opportunity. Yeah,
I saw an opportunity, and I thought, well, the network that I have, and everyone was trying to like buy all the time, or everyone was asking each other, oh, bro, where can I get? Where can I get? Where can I get? Do you know anyone I can get? And I thought, hang on a second, I'm not working. This is where I can make some money, and I could support my own my tickets, And at that same time, that's when I just got a job with Cotton On, my first job actually. And
working in the stores?
Yeah, retail store. Yep. I was selling clothes.
Yep.
And I thought at that time, because they weren't really giving me shifts, I was getting like a 3-hour shift once a week, twice a week maybe if I was lucky, and I wasn't getting much money. So I thought, you know what, this can help facilitate my life after. Because once you turn 18, it's petrol that you got to pay for, food when you go to TAFE or uni, and all these things. And I thought, oh, life's expensive. Life's expensive when you're an adult.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, all these responsibilities. And I thought, okay, cool. This is the best way for me to facilitate my life as an adult. And it didn't really cross my mind to work as hard, because eventually I was working 3 jobs at once, and that wasn't as close to the money that I was making from selling drugs.
Did you see yourself as a drug dealer, or did you see yourself as it's just friends? Because I hear this tale so many times. I didn't really see myself as a drug dealer. I was just I was getting drugs to my friends and just a conduit to it. When did you realise that you were, a drug dealer?
You know what? I think I realized I was a drug dealer early because, like, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
In my mind, it was the cool thing to do. Like,
Right.
I'm cool now. Like, I sell drugs. Like, it's another level up. Like, I'm pressing the girls.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's what it looked like, and I'm sure in my mind, in the minds of a lot of kids these days, that's what it looks like to them. Like, that you're not meant to be telling the world,
Yeah.
but you want people to know that you're the drug dealer because it sounds cool.
I'm the cool dude.
Yeah. So I guess in my mind, I was thinking that, but at the same time, it was more for me to make money. Like, I found like an ends to a means. Yeah.
Yeah. So, talk us through the dynamics of dealing the drugs. You have to get it off a dealer. Then
Yeah.
you've got do you put the money up front, then go sell it at the rave parties? What was the...
Yeah, so what back then ecstasy was a thing. Now I don't think it's a thing anymore. I think
Yeah.
people just use MDMA powder or caps. But back in my days, it would be you'd buy like to get started, you'd buy 100 pills for like a wholesale price, and then you'd sell it for like $25. So let's say I buy 100 pills, it probably cost me $11 each.
Yeah.
And then I'd sell each pill for 25, 30, whatever. And if I brought it into the rave, I'd sell it for 40.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you made the profit.
Yeah.
Did you get involved in that environment? Did you come across other groups? Because like this is another thing that I see with people getting involved in drug dealing. At first, it starts off harmless and it's all happy people around rave parties. But then, say the bikies or one of the gangs might go, well, hold it, who's selling the drugs here? And did you ever get bounced or reined in that way?
I actually never got like approached in that way. I think the time that I was doing it, there was just so many people doing it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like, I don't think I was treading on anyone's toes. And all the people that I knew were just getting off me because they didn't know anyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Did your parents wonder where you were getting the money? Did you start to flash the money around it?
No, I never really flashed the money around them. I was a little bit more intelligent than that. But like all my money went back into like the small things, like having like just basic clothes. To like I wasn't wearing like Gucci or LV, you know.
Pull up in your sports car.
I was walking around in like just clothes like Adidas, Nike. I could afford those things now. Yeah.
Did you have anyone that was close to you? Anyone that says, "Hey, mate, what you're doing, you this could end in tears"?
You know what? I thank my lucky stars that I still have these friends, because my closest group of friends, they did tell me, like, hey man, look, I don't think you should be doing this, but honestly, like, we wouldn't say anything if we didn't care.
Yep.
But please don't get caught. Like, we can't tell you what to do, but we don't think it's the right thing to do.
Right. So these were friends that you grew up with, I assume, or
Yeah, my high school mates. Yeah.
and they were saying, "Don't go down this path."
Yeah, don't go
basically.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. They could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and like they would tell me, look, bro, we know you're smarter than this.
Yeah.
You know, if you really just applied yourself to your studies, you could have a good job and stuff.
Sound like good friends.
Yeah, they're still my friends to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see them to this day.
Did your use of drugs, did you at any stage get addicted to the drugs that you were selling?
You know what? That's actually real funny, because I remember like getting high off MDMA was a really good feeling, and it felt like, oh well, if I feel like this at a rave, why not feel like this at a house party? And I done it at one house party. I remember I done it at one house party, and I had the same group of friends come up to me afterwards, after the house party, and they had an intervention with me. Yeah.
Talk us through that.
It was a really good intervention, because they were like, bro, what are you doing, man? Like, you're acting like a junkie.
Yeah.
They were like, you know, if you want to take drugs, because they went to the raves with me too. They go, only take drugs to enhance reality. Don't use it to escape reality.
Okay.
Because once you start using it to escape reality, your life's going to go down another path. But we can understand, like, you know, we take it too when we go to festivals, but it's only for that one night, just to enhance the reality of that moment.
Break that down. So the advice that your friends are giving to enhance reality, not escape from reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and
it's a subtle thing, but
yeah,
look,
yeah. The way they saw it was like everyone was doing it, but who's still functioning like a normal person outside of that? Who's not going down the path of letting it consume them?
Right.
Yeah. So like every, I don't know, 6 months, maybe go to a rave, enjoy yourself, have a good night, but that's it. It ends after that.
Looking at that advice now, do you wish you listened to it?
Yeah, look, after that, after they did say that,
Yep.
I did pull back and I stopped using it at house parties.
Yep.
I go, all right, just raves, that's it. And I think after that, yeah, like they really got through to me after that.
Okay. But your drug selling escalated. It went
Yeah.
past the party drugs and
Yeah.
then started selling heroin.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through.
Take us through that.
I'll walk you through what happened. So, because I was on the radar with police for selling pills, my house got raided.
Yep.
And specifically on what they were looking for, they said that they were looking for pills. So I knew something, like someone was talking. Anyways, when they raided my house, they found a BB gun.
Yep.
But not in my possession because my parents confiscated it off me. They found it in my parents' room. Anyways, because they were like targeting me for that raid, I went to jail for that weekend. And then I got bail for that because it was just a BB gun, but through my lawyer afterwards, they found a loophole because what happened was, well, my parents actually confiscated it off me to take it off me to throw out. And it wasn't actually in my possession, but they charged me for me in possession. Yeah. So I got out after that. And when I got out, one of my friends that I was in the scene with selling pills, he introduced me to someone else who needed a runner to sell heroin. And I thought, okay, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing anything. Why not? I'll do it. And at the same time, just before that, I was working 3 jobs, mind you. I was working 3 jobs. I was working 2 bar jobs and Australian Post Office.
Yep.
But that was like a Christmas casual thing. And then after I got locked up that week, they fired me from my job at Bankstown Sports as a bar attendant because they're like, oh, this is a security risk. And I go, oh, well, okay, I don't have a job there. And then my Christmas casual job ended with Ozpos just because the Christmas casual time was over. And I thought, well, I've got no money. I'll sell heroin then. Fuck, this is what I'm going to do then. And it just came at that time where I thought it was like a sign. So I thought, all right, cool. And then when I first done like a week's worth of selling, I thought, wow, this is money. I thought, okay, cool. This is what I'm going to do now. So I just stuck with that.
It's a pretty fucked up thing that's come out. You've been locked up for selling drugs.
Yeah.
For the pills from the party thing. You've had a BB gun that your parents, and I understand the logic behind that the parents have taken it off you. But you're in custody, so you had bail refused. And for that first period of time, how long were you in custody for?
Actually, I got bail, but what happened was... when they arrested me, they took my passport with the whatever they took.
Yeah.
And that was in my property somewhere. And then when the judge gave me bail from the...
You had to surrender your passport.
Yeah, I had to surrender my passport. I'm like, Mum, please look for my passport. And then my mum was looking frantically, flipping the whole house upside down, not knowing that it was in my property. So for a week, I was just sitting in jail, just going, Mum, where's the passport?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're laughing about it, but for your mum, how old were you?
I was 21 or 22. Should be 22 then. I was 22 then, yeah.
Your mum and dad, I would imagine, must have been devastated.
Yeah, they were devastated, and but because luckily, like, they knew I was getting out, they were like, the whole time they were like, see, I told you. Yeah. Like, my mum was more like, I told you. And she wasn't so devastated, she was just angry. Yeah.
Right. But you didn't learn from it. It wasn't like I would imagine for someone that, because I get the sense you haven't grown up, like half your mates aren't inside. It's not that environment that you grew up in. So that wasn't enough to scare you in custody for a week, like going in as a 21-year-old, not knowing many people in there or any people in there?
Yeah, I would say it didn't scare me enough because, well, look, the first night, and this is what I think should be done. Yeah. This is what I think should be done.
Very interested. Yeah.
This is what I think should be done. I think jail in Darcy like so I don't know if you know where Darcy is. Darcy's in MRRC. It's
Yep.
the transit part. That is where everyone has to go through to get processed. And it is the horrors. It is like the most disgusting part of jail ever. Like I've never, in all my years of jail, I've never been to anything more disgusting than Darcy. And I was absolutely terrified on my first night. I remember walking into my cell. I see the orange light coming through the mesh window. And all I could see was cockroaches all over the wall, just moving past. And I looked at the shower as I walked past, and it was just rust everywhere. And I thought, I can't believe this is jail.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is jail. And I remember lying in bed that night, and I had a Koori celly that night. And I remember I was just talking to him about life. And he's like, oh, it's your first time? He goes, yeah, bro, don't come back, man. I've been here like 3 times already. And I was absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
But it only lasted for one night. So I guess that's why I didn't think much of it. The next day they moved me to the pod, just a random pod. I can't remember what pod it was exactly. And there were some Asian boys there, and they were looking after me, and they were just talking to me. And they're like, oh, bro, you'll get out in no time. And then when I was hanging out with them, I'm like, oh, this is clean. This is not bad. This is better than where I was. And I thought, oh, so this is what jail is.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so there's food everywhere. The boys are giving me food. This is not bad. But if I was left to like in Darcy for a bit longer, I might have been like absolutely horrified that I wouldn't have come back.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got to get that balance. You want the jails to be humane,
Yeah.
and you don't want people going there and brutalised, which it can happen. You go in as a young fella in the jail, but enough to scare someone. But if you don't mind me saying, it sounds like you were too stupid to appreciate what had happened to you. Like your freedom had been taken away. And there's that,
Honestly, I was young and juvenile. Like my mindset at the time was, well, I couldn't see that it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that. I was too blinded by that. And then when I got out, because when you go from selling pills and weed, there's like a hierarchy of like what type of dealer you are and how cool you are. So when I went to selling heroin, I thought I was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like my ego went through the roof.
Talk us through that, because really, and I'll question it on it. Like heroin, you know the impact that can have, and that people die from heroin. Policing in the 80s and 90s, I forgot how many times I'd get called to a job where someone's dead with a needle in their arm. So did that cross your mind?
Honestly, it didn't cross my mind, because when I was selling heroin, I was would have been 2010s.
Yep.
And by then, all the people that I was selling to, they were just normal functioning people who needed it to get by the day through work and all of that. So it was way past the 80s and 90s where people were just dropping dead.
Yep.
All the guys that I was selling to, they just needed to get through their day.
Yep.
Like, they'd wake up and they'd ring me, and then I'd go see them, and then they'd go off to work. And then same thing, some guys would see me at night time before they came, so they could go to bed.
Yeah.
And it was just so they weren't hanging out and getting sick. So to me, I felt like it was more of, well, if they're not going to get off me, they're going to get off through someone else. And at the same time, they just needed to survive. They're not going out to do crime. And the time that I was selling to, I thought I was invincible because the ice epidemic was going on. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, 2010, around 2010, that was when the ice epidemic was going on. You had all these commercials on TV about the ice addicts hitting the nurses and the ambulance drivers. And because I felt like the police was so involved in that, like these guys were just getting by. These guys just needed to get by. They weren't running out to commit crime. They weren't doing anything bad. I just needed to supply them so they can get by.
So that's how what you've just said is sort of giving us an insight how you were rationalising it in your mind. So you didn't see yourself as, quite often the drug dealer is painted as this evil person, trading off others' misfortune. But that's not what was going through your mind at the time?
Nah, that was exactly. So that wasn't exactly what was going through my mind. I just thought, oh, well, I'm just doing a job. I'm just answering the phone and running it out.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of saw it like a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're starting to get into the more darker side of the criminal world, but when you're dealing with heroin, did you see the people around you that you were working with, or?
Some of the people that are you talking about like the guys that were getting off me?
Yeah. And the people you were getting it from.
Okay, so the guys that I was getting it from, they were like what you see in the movies, the guys with all the fancy cars, the guys that were in the clubs that were popping off.
Yeah.
Like they were like and you thought, fuck, I want to get there one day, I want to have that much money to blow in one night.
Yeah.
And then the guys that I was seeing every day, just regular workers, I had a couple of experiences that I learnt. I did meet some people that were absolute junkies.
Yep.
Like, I remember one time I went to go sell to this guy, and I shouldn't have sold to him. I should have known better, but I just wanted money. Anyways, I pulled up, him and his friend got in the car, and his mate in the back seat pulled a syringe on me.
Yeah.
And they pulled the handbrakes. I'm like, hang on. And I'm like, oh, what do you want? All right, just take it, just take it, bro. It's easy. Like,
Yeah.
they only got away with like $1,000 worth of stuff. It was nothing. But at the time, I'm like, fuck. This is not the type of people that I want to deal with. I need to reanalyze and only deal with the people that just needed to get by. So I stopped and I kind of cut like the circle a bit shorter of the people
Right.
that I was selling to.
Okay, so did you have like a number? You had a burner phone that people would contact? How did you?
Yeah, basically, like, so I would have a number that I'd call, and then every month or so I'd just change the number, call everyone back, and meet up with everyone, give them a new number, and then I'd just keep changing numbers.
And so how long did this life run for?
I would say over a year to 2 years between there. So
Okay.
it was going on for a while, and I guess eventually I became sloppy with the way I was dealing. Like, I wasn't meeting people in like secretive places. It was just like out in the open, and I guess eventually that's what led to me having an surveillance on me.
Mm.
And like, a big part of me, I'll go back to this, a big part of me thinking why I was invincible was because of the ice epidemic. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. So I thought, no one's watching the heroin addicts. People were just watching the ice addicts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you thought you were not only I wasn't as bad as the ice dealers,
Yeah.
that no one would be looking at me.
Yeah, I thought I was flying underneath the radar.
Well, you said you got sloppy, and this is something that you've said because you described it, that your life at this time was revolving around selling drugs and eating Hungry Jacks. Like, that's not a really positive outlook on life. Talk us through
Okay.
that 2 years.
So during those 2 years, like, I just started uni at the time too.
Yep.
And I was going through uni, and I had all this money, and I wanted to get back into fitness and training, because when I was 16 and I was at the gym, that's when I was healthy and I was training. I was looking good too, and I was trying to get back to that. And I would spend my money on these Muscle Meals and Muscle Chef prep meals, but I wouldn't eat them. They'd just be sitting in the freezer. Because I'm always on the go, I'd end up just buying Hungry Jacks all the time.
So you think just buying protein you were going to get bigger without training or eating?
But here's the funny thing:
Yeah.
I wasn't even training hard too. So I was barely training. But I was trying, but I wasn't trying enough. It was And what satisfied me every morning was when I'd get up and I'd buy that Hungry Jacks, that brekkie wrap with the hash brown in it, and I'd dip it in barbecue plum sauce. Like, that was like my high every morning. And then throughout the day, I would go out, and because I had this money that I didn't have before, I could buy whatever I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
So I was experimenting with things. I'd go buy sushi, and then I'd go to El Jana's and I'll buy garlic sauce. And I'd dip sushi in garlic sauce.
No. Well, you haven't got a career as a chef by the sounds of it.
Well, later on when I went to jail and when I was at Oberon, I actually learned how to make garlic sauce, and I realized it was just oil.
Right.
It's just oil. It's just oil, garlic, and lemon juice. And then now that I see that, like, what garlic sauce is actually, like, because I made it myself, I stopped eating that.
Put that away. So your life. So this is, what age are we talking here? This is 21 to 23.
21 to 24.
Okay. What were your friends doing? The good friends. I'll say the good friends. The ones that were smart enough to give you a tap on the shoulder and say, "Hey, this isn't the way to go."
So they were working normal jobs.
Yep.
And they were studying at uni.
Yeah.
So they were just working like factory jobs, like I think for Visi board.
Yep.
And they were towards the end of their studying. So they were doing like what normal people in that age group were doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were still turning up to the social events, like going out to birthdays, whatever, going clubbing, karaoke. but they wouldn't be spending that much money. And because I was making that much money, I was like shouting at everyone.
You're flashing it.
Yeah, I was flashing. I was paying for
Yeah.
everything, and I just wanted all my mates to have a good time too.
Yeah.
And I guess it came to a certain point where they'll go, oh well, if he's making this much money, and he's paying for everything, like they couldn't sit down and tell me, hey Andrew, you got to stop.
Because they were enjoying the benefits.
Yeah,
of
because
it.
they were enjoying the benefits, and like if they sat me down and told me, hey Andrew, you got to stop, well then don't. I would have turned around and said, on my ego, I would have said, bro, why are you enjoying it?
It sounds like your ego was being fed fairly heavily at that stage.
Yeah, like I'll be honest with you, I had like my ego was through the roof. Like I thought I was untouchable. I thought I was making so much money. I thought that. I thought I was on top of the world. I genuinely thought I was on top of the world.
Did you have your dark moments when because we all go through that when you think, yeah, I've got this life business wired. But did you ever have your dark moments during that time where you sort of checked yourself and gone, maybe I'm am heading in the wrong direction. I'm going to have to pay a price at some stage.
Never. You're 21 and you think, nah, I'm sweet.
Yeah.
Like I'm sweet. Like you have that testosterone going through you because you're young.
Yeah.
And you just think, wow, look. Yeah, maybe because I've never seen that much money before in my life, and I thought, I'm only gonna make more and more, and I'm only gonna go up and up. It didn't cross my mind that I was gonna go to jail.
Were you working in the dark side of your drug dealing? Were you working with anyone that was encouraging you and pushing you and egging you on to go deeper and deeper? And
no, I wouldn't say egging me on, but in a way they were influencing me because, let's say, like the guys that I was getting off, like they would level up, like in the food chain of drug dealing, and well, I guess that would make me inspired to follow their footsteps. And all right, well, if they're leveling up, I need to level up too.
Right.
I need to go further down the chain.
What about there's times, and there's too many to name, but where young people have taken a overdose at a festival and that type of thing. And there'll be something that comes up, and the war on drugs and how bad drugs is. Did that ever filter through to you, or it was just?
Honestly, that to me that never filters through to me. Like even now, I still see it at festivals and people going on, and I see it on my socials, people passing away. It doesn't ring a bell in my life.
Yeah.
Even I think I've been blessed to not have anyone that I know pass away from overdosing at festivals.
Right.
And it's never really hit me. I guess that's why. But seeing other people from other social circles, it hasn't hit me yet.
But you seem like a reflective type of guy, and you're in your 30s now. Do you look back and go, oh yeah, I was lucky.
Yeah, I would say I was lucky. Like going back to what you just said before, like did I ever look at, did it ever seep in where, people passed away at music festivals, and did it ever seep into my thoughts?
Yeah.
I guess that's where the phrase comes in, a smart man will learn from his mistakes and a wise man will learn from others. I guess I wasn't wise, and I would only learn from my own close circle smart mistakes.
Didn't see it or didn't appreciate the ramifications. Do you think if there was someone that could influence you, pull you aside and go, hey mate, this is, do you realise what you're doing? Do you think that would have made a difference at that time, or you had to virtually be locked up to learn the lesson?
I think I reflect on this thought quite often, because what I do with Confit right now is I wish I had myself as an older brother 10 years ago. But the way I get to be these kids' older brothers is through social media, by showing people the way I live, showing people how I train, showing people the life that I came from. Yeah. And I guess that's the power of social media too. And if I had to rewind 10 years ago, social media wasn't that powerful back then, where you could just go online and find someone that you really connected with, someone that could steer you in the right path. So answering that question, jail was the only way that was going to change me. I had to learn the hard way through that experience. But if I was blessed to have someone guide me and pull me aside and influence me, I would have taken that opportunity.
Okay, that's interesting.
But at the same time, I realize this, especially in men, when we look for mentors, it has to be a certain type of person. It has to be a certain type of person who's gone through certain types of things. So I'm not saying that I would have listened to any guy who was a little bit older than me. He would have had to walk down that path.
I think, and I'm not dividing up between men and women, but I can only speak from
Male perspective.
our perspective, is that you tend to listen to someone that's walked the walk, that's got the credibility, that if someone comes to me and I know that they've done the hard yards, I'm more inclined to listen to someone that's theorising about, you shouldn't do this because of such and such.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's like if you go into the boxing gym and, you know, Floyd Mayweather tells you how to box.
You're going to listen.
Yeah, you're going to listen. Yeah. And, like, I wish, you know, I had someone who walked down my path a long time ago and turned his life around, made money through the legitimate way, through businesses, and told me, hey, Andrew, this is what you can do. You don't have to go down this path because I went down this path. Trust me. Yeah. I would have listened.
I know there's a lot of money to be made in drug dealing, but I can honestly say I've seen some people over my career in the cops that work so hard as drug dealers. If they just worked in a reputable job, they would have made just as much money because they've if they applied themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what I said earlier. You know, energy cannot be destroyed; it can only be converted. So if you just redirect that energy, which is what I'm doing now in my personal training, my coaching business.
Channel it.
Yeah, I'm just rechanneling everything that I'd spent, all the energy that I spent into trying to sell drugs. I'm just re-diverting it into creating content and growing my coaching business.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about that later on, but I just want to talk about your downfall. What happened when you did get locked up and ended up the lead into getting 4 years, and we'll talk about that. But what was the undoing?
So there was surveillance on the house that me and my co-offender had, and they were watching that place. And I could have avoided everything, mind you. I could have avoided everything. So that morning I left the place and I went to go eat lunch in the city with my friend. And one of my friends went to the same house and he left the place not long after. And he tried calling me, but I didn't answer his phone call because, well, he only ever calls me for one thing, and that's to play a game of FIFA. So I thought he was just being annoying. Okay? Anyways, so I didn't even bother calling him back. Later that afternoon, I came back to the house, and then as I left the house, I've like reloaded all my stock, and I've gone back home to my house. But on the way, I stopped at the petrol station, and that's when the detectives pulled up on me and they searched me. Later on, I find out that my mate that was trying to call me, he was trying to call me to tell me, because he came to visit me. Yeah. He's trying to call me to tell me, hey, you know why I called you that morning? It was because I left the house and they followed me and they searched me, but they couldn't find anything. That's why I was trying to call you. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, I could have dodged a bullet. Yeah. I could have dodged a bullet. Fast forward 10 years later, I'm thankful that I didn't dodge that bullet, because I wouldn't have learned all the things that I learned inside jail to lead me to where I am today.
You could have cleared the place out and they wouldn't have found the drugs, that type of thing.
And I would have went further down that path of drug dealing. I probably would have ended up copping a 10-year sentence instead of a 4-year sentence.
Well, we might take a break now, because we've talked about the highs of your drug dealing and enjoying the good life, selling drugs and eating Hungry Jacks. But we're going to leave you at this point in time when you've just been arrested, and then we're going to talk about what happened then, because I think it's if we want people to fully appreciate the ramifications of what you were doing, like we can sit here and talk about it without fully appreciating it, understanding what it's like going into prison for 4 years, and that's what we'll talk about when we get back shortly.
Sounds good.